So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Again, we are on day 4 of the Women in Learning and Development Conference 2024. My name is Rebecca Prejean, and I'm here to introduce our second speaker of the day, my personal friend, Laine Istvan. She's one of my favorite people in the world, super knowledgeable. So, I know that you guys are in for a real treat. But today, Laine is going to be talking about leveling up your communication skills with answer intelligence. As you all know, we all have conversations with clients internally and externally. So Laine is going to tell you everything that you need to know about how to approach these conversations using answer intelligence. A little bit about Laine. Laine Istvan is the Chief Learning Consultant and Instructional Designer at Sage LXD. She has a background as a K-8 teacher before transitioning to learning and development in 2020. She combines her passion for well-being and self-development with her expertise in instructional design to create impactful learning solutions that enhance workplace performance. She's based in Tampa, Florida. She's a mother of 2 teens and enjoys hiking, reading self-help books, and journaling in her free time. So obviously somebody of varied interests and a wonderful, wonderful well of knowledge. So with no further ado, Laine, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks so much for that introduction. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm going to go and share my presentation. All righty. So very excited to be here today again in the TLDC universe and with all of you here today. So thank you for taking time out of your day to learn about answer intelligence. So first of all, what is answer intelligence? If you've heard of it before, maybe you can put a thumbs up in the chat or just let me know if you've heard of answer intelligence. I feel like most people have probably heard of emotional intelligence, right? Which is, managing our emotions and leading with empathy and handling, our emotions as well as other people's. But answer intelligence is a little bit different. And so I'm going to share a couple metaphors with you. Answer intelligence is a set of golf clubs. It is a compass, and it is a line of skincare products. And what could I possibly mean by that? Well, I'm not a golfer, but I know that there are different clubs for different purposes, right? If you're doing a long drive, you have one type of club. If you're putting close to the, what do you call it? The hole, there's a different type of club, right? So you have different clubs for different purposes. And with a compass is like, it guides you to your destination, right? If accompanied with a map, it can tell you where you're going. And a line of skincare products, there are different products for different things, right? If you are looking for a serum, maybe something with vitamin C, or you want to have a nighttime cream, right? All those different things combined, they're going to get you to the same goal. And so a line of skincare products can help you achieve what you're looking for and with your skin. But basically, answer intelligence is a framework for the 5WH questions: the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, when I was in school, there was, they told students to ask good questions, right? Good students ask good questions. If you're investigating, if you're researching, got to ask the questions. But I never really learned a framework for how to answer those questions. So that's why I was really interested when I came across the answer intelligence framework to really learn and understand how to, use it and implement it to answer different types of questions. Answer intelligence was developed by a man named Dr. Brian Gilkowski and his team, and they uncovered this while they were doing research. And believe it or not, they were doing research with golf instructors, and not just any type of golf instructors, like instructors that were at the top of their game. They'd been teaching a long time. They had like the most prestigious clients. And what they discovered was Now, I'm sure this is true throughout many different types of, um, companies, like organizations. But what they found specifically was that the instructors were using all of these domains to coach and answer questions and get their students from one level to the next. So how do we read the wheel? It looks a little complex at first, maybe for some. On the left side, you have the questions. Well, the question words. If you are answering a why question, you're going to read it from left to right. So you might answer with a theory and you might answer with a story. If it's a what type of question, you might answer with a concept or a metaphor. And if it's how, you might answer with procedure or action. The colors do mean something, which I will get into just a little bit later. And for when and where, and even who, those questions are contextual. So depending on the context of the question or the conversation, you might choose to use different domains. And as you're listening, my goal for you throughout this session is to, number one, learn about the framework, understand how the framework works, and think about ways that you can apply it in your role and even in your life. And so here are some just typical applications for the Answer Intelligence framework. We have leadership development, coaching, sales, self-awareness, influence, interviews, just pretty much anything you can think of in terms of conversations, in terms of influencing people, and in terms of just answering questions and communicating. Okay, so this is a little disclaimer. I used, as I was coming up with these questions, I used ChatGPT to come up and help me with some answers to the questions. So I just want to put that out there because they're really good, most of them, but you might have some differing opinions to what showed up in my research. So just putting that out there. All right, so let's talk about why questions. Why questions are structural, right? They're a little bit deeper. They are wanting you to understand or answer like how ideas and concepts are organized, how ideas are connected, and how different ideas and concepts come together in a meaningful way. If we are talking about Bloom's taxonomy, these are going to be application, creation, synthesis, right? It's going to be like those higher level thinking type of questions. And an example that I came up with is, why is L&D often seen as order takers? I know that is a topic that comes up quite a bit. So I thought, you know what, let's see what comes up on that. And so the way to answer why questions, one of the ways, I should say, it's not the only way, but one of the ways is to use a theory. And we know that with theories, they are based on research, observation, prediction, right? So theories can show relationship between different ideas, and they can be backed up with evidence. So if we're going to answer the question, why is L&D often seen as order takers? One way you might be able to do that is to explain it by using a theory. According to role theory, the behavior of individuals within organizations is influenced by their understanding of their job role. If the organization implicitly defines L&D's role as order takers, L&D professionals will likely act within that scope. To change this, organizations must redefine the L&D role within the org structure and culture and emphasize strategic contribution. Now, that might be true for some, and it might not be true at all. But in the context of a conversation, this could be a good way to explain why that happens. Another way to answer is with a story. What I really like about these two is that they serve the same purpose, but they're like two sides of the same coin, right? Like with theory, you're kind of looking at it from more like a scientific perspective, like an empirical perspective. And with a story, it's going to be anecdotal, right? It's going to be something that you've personally experienced or you've heard of someone else experiencing, and you're going to be able to um, convey that through a story. And everybody loves a story, right? When someone says, "Let me tell you a story," we all listen. So we get that personal connection and a mental picture. So an example story could be, in one organization, the L&D department was traditionally seen as a provider of mandatory training sessions. However, when a new L&D leader came in, they shifted the perspective by aligning the training outcomes, actively engaging with leadership, and demonstrating the ROI of training programs. L&D's role was redefined as a result, and they became key players in the company's strategic planning. I love that story, and what would be even better is if it was tied to some real data and like real experience. But of course, it's just an example. So the next is what? What questions are declarative? If we are, again, talking about Bloom's taxonomy, we're probably looking at the lower level, right? We're looking at like remembering, understanding, and maybe even applying to some extent. Declarative knowledge is an awareness of facts and information about a topic. So we have the awareness about it, we understand how it works, we can explain it, but maybe not to the deeper level of the why questions. So an example could be, what are the top skills for L&D professionals? And the two ways you can answer it are through concept and metaphor. So with concept, you're explaining something, maybe you're using definitions, you're giving examples to help them clarify and understand the idea. So just to give you an example, according to ATD, the top in-demand skills for instructional designers include e-learning development, knowledge of learning management systems, and expertise in instructional design models like ADDIE or SAM. To be honest with you, I didn't take this very much further and really dig into it, but I do recommend that if I was needing this information to be persuasive and to influence, I would certainly want to have some more support under my belt, like what year was this, what study was this, that kind of thing. But just as an example. And the second way is to answer with a metaphor. So making an analogy and showing how two things that are not really related, or that you might not think at first are related, like skincare products and answer intelligence, how maybe the way that they function or the way that you can explain something about them, you can make the connection and then create some meaning with that. And the metaphor here, being an instructional designer without in-demand skills is like being a sailor without a compass. Just as a compass guides a sailor through the seas, in-demand skills guide instructional designers through the evolving landscape of education technology, ensuring they can navigate the challenges and opportunities it presents. So you can see that using the metaphor of being a sailor and a compass, you can make the connection, right? Of course, that's just one example of a metaphor. You can use any that you like, of course, that makes sense.
Hey, Laine.
Okay. Yes.
We have a couple of questions asking about the availability of the slides following the presentation. Will you be making these available, and if so, where?
I'm happy to make them available, and I don't know where. I suppose I can share a link or a PDF. What do you think is better?
I mean, you could link it or even do the PDF on your LinkedIn.
That's an excellent idea. I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Was that the only question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I just took a quick peek at the Q&A reader. Rita, his name is Dr. Brian Glidkowski, and I'll type that in later at the end. Okay, so moving on to how questions. How questions are procedural. So we're looking at, step by step, practical, hands-on. How do you perform a specific skill or a task? And so the example I'm providing is, how can I leverage gaming elements into the learning experience? Now, with procedural, I like to think that it can be very tactical, but it can also be strategic. And we've got two sides of the coin, right? We've got procedure, which is the step-by-step, and we've got action, which I'll get to, but it's like a subtask of a procedure. So procedure shows you what steps that you would take to, answer the how question. So this is what ChatGPT 4.0 provided me with that question: how can I leverage gaming elements into the learning experience? And I won't read the whole thing, but identify your goals, choose relevant game mechanic, design engaging content, incorporate instant feedback, ensure accessibility, measure and iterate. Of course, is that the only step-by-step to leverage gaming elements? No, of course not. This is just an example. But it can show you that when you're having conversations with your management or your leadership team, or even just your team in general, how you take that conversation or take those questions and step them up a little bit and add more to the discussion by having more specific answers to provide, right? And just providing just more ways to think about things and enrich that conversation. And then the second piece is, as I just mentioned earlier, is answer with action. So actions are subtasks of those procedures where you can speak more in depth, right? So you might say, okay, let's look at number 2, choose relevant game mechanics. And you might be able to expand on that a little more. And maybe that's your area of expertise. And you're like, oh, you know what? I know about this. And you can just highlight specific actions that your team can take to implement those gaming elements. Right? So the answer here is create a mini game challenge that relates directly to the learning material. For instance, a quiz that allows learners to earn points for correct answers, compete with peers on the leaderboard, and achieve badges for completing different levels of difficulty. That's very general, right? So as you take this and you make it your own, you're going to want to explain more, right? Give more detail, more relative and related to your specific circumstance. Okay, so moving on to AQ answer styles. Now we're going to get into the color wheel of it a little bit. So red, as you can see here, story and metaphor, those answers they fall under the category of relational. So your goal is to make your answer just a little more personal and get that emotional connection. So maybe you're talking to someone who loves stories. They just love to tell stories, hear stories, and what you're discussing could lend itself better to a story or a metaphor. And that's a great opportunity to use those two type of answers. Okay, so yellow is analytical, and you are seeking to explain and predict. And so if you're working with content that leans more toward facts and figures, then you're going to want to use the theory and concept answer types more I mean, not necessarily frequently, but they're going to be your go-tos, right? Because they are really, they tie in like with the research and the data and, the analytics. And so some people like the type of information better, and sometimes it just lends itself better to your situation. And blue is practical. So to achieve the results that you're looking for, you would use procedure or action. Because you're working with content that means more. Nope, that is not correct. You're working with content that tells you how you're going to complete something and the steps that you're going to take. And so it's more practical. And so what about when, where, and who? So these 3 questions are going to give context to your answers. So when did this happen? Where did it take place? Who is involved? And so you can really use the different domains on the wheel to talk about these types of questions and just bring more information into your conversation. So a few helpful tips. One of the high AQ practices is to answer twice. And if you see the wheel down here, that can look like a couple different ways. That could look like using them side by side, right? You're going to maybe use a story and a metaphor, or you're going to use a story and a theory. Maybe you want to expand a little more. Maybe someone didn't ask you a procedural question, but you want to expand on that and you want to influence a little bit more. So maybe you're going to give them some research that you learned about it. Or maybe you're going to give them the concepts behind it and the ideas behind it. So anytime that you can expand your answer and give multiple answers, you're going to be providing more information, more context to your situation, and you're just going to be able to have greater influence. Because people like to hear things multiple times, right? Sometimes it's not just you answer one time and then that satisfies. A lot of times there's follow-up questions. So I'm not saying that there won't be follow-up questions, but if you can provide a more complete answer by answering twice, then that just kind of gives you that boost and that influence and the confidence that you know what you're talking about. Same thing, provide compliments. So not just answering twice, finding 2 spots on the wheel, the compliments are together, right? They're the answers that kind of touch each other on the wheel. They complement each other. And then, if you're like real superstar, you can give all 6 answers, right? I know one thing that comes up in conversation is people feel a little nervous or worried that they won't be able to answer any questions that come their way. And so being able to come prepared to a meeting or a discussion, even just having these kinds of answers in your back pocket can really give you a boost of confidence to be able to further the discussion and just have more things that you can bring to the table and expand and leverage those different answers so that you can, like I said, expand the discussion. And it's not so much as using it as a crutch, really. It's more about expanding what you already know. We all have different experiences, right? And we're all limited by our life experiences, like what we have been exposed to, what we've had the opportunity to work on, what we've had the opportunity to contribute to. So I wouldn't look at it as, if you're doing research to try to help you come up with different answers for the different domains, I would look at it more as filling in the gaps, right? Filling in the gaps, helping like crowdsource if you're going to use like AI or something, because there's so much out there that we don't know. But you can also just broaden and expand your horizons by having those different ways of answering. And I'm going to be honest with you, one of the ones I struggle with is metaphor. I don't know why. I have a hard time coming up with metaphors like right on the spot. And another one is theory. If if you didn't necessarily read it in a journal, or some research article or something, not all of us can just start rattling off things like that off the top of our head. So it's always good to have those things in your back pocket, right? To be able to bring some of those to the conversation. And so I will leave you with, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Sometimes I take social media breaks, but I'm on there, every so often, and I would love to connect with you. So thank you, everybody. I hope that you took something away from this presentation and you're able to use it in your role and in your life. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Laine, for that wonderful crash course in answer intelligence. Lots of information.
Yeah.
It's super informative, super helpful, especially, again, when we are in an industry where communication is so key. As we're trying to make our business case to stakeholders or tell them why they should do the things that we tell them to do. These are all tools that we can use for that. So I'm going to allow a few moments for Q&A. If you have a question for Laine, put it in the Q&A and we will tackle those wonderful things that you have. Thanks.
I am typing Ryan's name into the Q&A for Rita.
Yes. It's Glibkowski.
Yes.
Did I say that correct?
Yay. Oh, you got it, Rebecca. Yeah.
Like, that's a score.
I just remove that.
Never hurts to see it twice. But no, looks like we may not have any additional questions coming through, but lots of gratitude for the information. Bridget actually has an observation. She used to be a journalist, and her editor used to tell her the why was the question most people didn't ask. Yes, this is true. Laine, insights into that?
What's that?
Insights into that statement from Bridget?
Why people don't ask why questions?
Yeah.
Probably they just don't want the answer or they don't want to stick around for a long-winded answer. I don't know. In journalism, probably especially. I could see that. Politics and all that stuff.
Absolutely true. Janelle.
Yeah. A 3-year-old, yes, they will ask why. Give them a theory answer.
Young kids have a way of doing that.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in learning more about answer intelligence, I know that you can follow Dr. Brian Glibkowski on LinkedIn, and I know he's got a website. I think it's Answer AQ. I'll have to look it up real quick. But yeah, feel free to learn some more and explore, and reach out to me if you have any more questions. I will post my presentation in my LinkedIn, so I will share that.
Yes. And Laine's LinkedIn is also in the chat. I included that information. So if you want her slides, want to have access to them, please go to LinkedIn, follow her, message her. She's a wonderful source of knowledge for you guys to know about. Super happy you got to,
Thank you.
take a look.
I'm just wondering what. Go ahead.
No,
I was just wondering. No, I was just going to say, if anyone can see themselves using this, framework to answer questions. I think sometimes it takes a little bit of prep work, but if you're already very knowledgeable in your field and in your role, I think a lot of these you can already, you probably already have some answers ready to go. So it's a really great prep tool, like if you're going into a meeting or something, to have those extras in your back pocket.
And we just got a question from Fernanda. Is there any other resources we can use for answer intelligence?
I would say one of the things that we have like these monthly meetings for partners, and they're always coming up with different discussions and different points about how we can use the answer intelligence framework in different ways. There are quite a bit of coaches in there. So coaches, what they like to do is use different, I would say like strengths frameworks. Like some coaches have like their own framework that they use to guide people and help people like through whatever it is that they're trying, like their goals and whatever tough times they're going through. So you can use it in conjunction with other frameworks also. So there's someone else who is a Clifton strengths coach. And so they kind of like marry the two, and they use answer intelligence to kind of support that first framework that they really work a lot with. I watched a coaching session using the Grow framework. So I thought that was really interesting. That used the Grow framework and she used the answer intelligence framework to help support that. So that I know is one thing that resources you can use in conjunction. And interview questions too. If you are someone who's like in the middle of interviewing, think about those questions that come along frequently. What questions have you been presented with in an interview that maybe stumped you? You're like, oh, I wish I had a better answer for that, and use the framework to your advantage to help you come up with different answers for it.
Awesome.
Hope that answered your question.
Excellent. Let's see, I'll give it another minute or two. And it did. It answered the question. So excellent.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rita, for sharing that podcast. Yeah. On the website, there's a couple different resources. There's some LinkedIn Lives that Dr. Glubkowski's done. He's also been on several podcasts. He has a TED Talk. So let me get the website for you. It's Raise Your AQ. I'll put that in the chat. There you go. What's interesting, actually, is that the Answer Intelligence organization has its own software. So, and it's powered by AI. It's actually very cool. And so there's different ways that you could use it to help you do like needs analysis. You can do a personal assessment. You can, a lot of the business partners are leadership development. So they're working with high level C-suite executives to influence culture, influence how they want to use the answer intelligence framework in their meetings and just kind of like all across the board with organizations. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting.
Okay.
And to Bridget's point, refine your consultative skills. Yeah, it's a really great tool for that. I personally just used ChatGPT 4.0. Not 3.5. 3.5 doesn't pick up on it yet. I think because answer intelligence came about just within the last couple of years. So I think 3.5 only goes to like 2022. Not sure what month of 2022, but so yeah. If you want to use it, you got to go on 4.0.
looks like we might be clear on the question front. However, everybody remember that Lainey will actually be at the networking tables at what, 1 o'clock EST?
2 o'clock EST.
See, I'm not good with time zones. So 2 o'clock
That's
EST.
because
So in about,
we're in Central Time. That's why.
exactly. So in about 24 minutes, she'll actually be talking a little bit more and continuing the conversation about answer intelligence. So feel free to move your way on over there. Yeah,
Yeah,
other
please.
than that, again, wait, it looks like we have a raised hand, actually.
Oh
Let's
God, I
see.
hope that's not me.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think
Okay.
there's, that's not you. That's Cheryl. See, so Cheryl actually really does have a good question about where the networking tables are. So let me explain it a little bit because I was confused on this as well for a bit. So when you first enter into the event, like when you first log in, if you look at the top of the window that's there, you'll see reception, and then you'll see, I want to say it's like tables or some other heading. If you click on that option, once the table is open, you'll be able to click in and join. So you can actually get there directly from the lobby of the event. It took me a minute to figure that out. So, so you're welcome. But absolutely join Lainey and just continue the conversation about good communication skills and how answer intelligence can, kind of support you in your journey.
Yeah, and we don't have to limit it to answer intelligence either. I'm happy to discuss women's issues, any issues. Ask me questions. It's all good. Come on in.
Awesome. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. But other than that, thank you again, Lainey, for joining us today, giving us all of your knowledge and all of your grace and presence. And we will see everybody later.
Thank you, Rebecca. And Luis,
Welcome.
have a
Bye, guys.
bye.